Hey everyone, it's Tony with Hidden Light Photography. And in the last video, we captured M51 in HA-LRGB. And today, we're going to process that data. So if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. I don't want you to miss out on any useful information. Now let's jump into PixInsight and process M51 in HA-LRGB. In the previous video, we captured M51 in HA-LRGB. And today, we're going to process that data. Here, we have the hydrogen alpha, luminance, red, green, and blue data captured using my Skywatcher 200p OTA, ASI 2600 mm monochrome camera, and my Optolong HA, luminance, red, green, and blue filters. Before we get started, we're going to go ahead and organize our data sets so we can easily identify them during processing. If we click on each data set and hit Control A, that allows us to do a quick auto stretch. And then if we right click and go to Identifier, we can name each data set for what it is. In other words, here we have our blue. We'll minimize that. We'll do a quick stretch on green. Name it green. We have red, we have luminance, and finally we have hydrogen alpha. From here, if we highlight all of our icons, right-click, and go to Arrange Selected Icons and click Align Left, that gives us a nice organized stack. Now, as always, when processing an image, we want to start with the corrective work first. That sets the stage for stretching, and then finally beautification. To get started, we're going to go into Script, HLP, Astro Image Primer. Now, Astro Image Primer does a few different functions for us. It can do star alignment, and it can also do our initial star correction. Astro Image Primer's primary function, though, is linear fit. And that's all that we're going to use Astro Image Primer for on this particular data set. Generally, I'll do an initial star correction before I extract the background. But we're going to get into that in another video. For this data set, we're not going to do an initial star correction. Also, generally I'll run star alignment, but for this particular data set, we have a couple of extra channels, hydrogen alpha and luminance, and I would rather star align all of the channels at the same time. So what we're going to do here, we have our monochrome data, and with that, we have all of our channels which are already separated. So we're going to click Use Individual Channels, and that then opens up the drop-downs for our separated channels, red, green, and blue. So in each drop-down, we're going to put the associated channel, red to red, green to green, and blue to blue. Also, I want to do a little bit more to each channel before I combine them. So I want Astro Image Primer to leave the channel separated once it's done. As far as reference type, M51 doesn't necessarily have hugely bright areas that need to try to be kept under control, and it also doesn't have very dim areas that we want to try to help bring out more. So I'm going to use the middle mean. So if I go to Select Reference Type and I click Middle, it's going to use the middle channel mean for the reference for linear fit. Now, one thing that you could do if you were curious or needed help deciding or just wanted the information, if we click Measure Channel Mean Values, it'll go ahead and give us the mean values for each channel. In the case of the setup that I have here, using the middle mean as the reference, we see that it's going to use the blue channel, since the blue channel's mean is in the middle of the other two channels. I'm going to go ahead and click execute, and then Astro Image Primer is going to perform linear fit using the blue channel as the reference. I'm going to exit out of Astro Image Primer, and then if we open up our red, green, and blue channels, one thing might stand out. It looks like we probably broke the channels. That's not the case. If we go ahead and we do a quick auto stretch with Control A, we see that our channels come back in line. Our blue channel was not affected at all because it was used as the reference for linear fit. Now, the next thing that we want to do is do the star alignment. Again, we didn't use Astro Image Primer because we have a couple of extra channels here, and I want to make sure to align all of them at the same time. What star alignment does, if we go ahead and we overlap blue with, let's say, green since it's right there, and we blink through, we see a rotation difference. The same holds true with any of the other channels. They are in different alignment. Now this is especially crucial for monochrome data because every channel is captured separately. Red is captured at a separate time than blue, which is captured at a separate time than green, so on and so forth. With one-shot color though, even though we capture over multiple nights in some cases, when we put our one-shot color data into WBPP, we're processing everything at the same time, so everything gets aligned together. That's not the case when it comes to monochrome. So what we want to do is align all of our channels: hydrogen alpha, luminance, red, green, and blue. Let's go ahead and minimize these, and then we're going to go into Process, All Processes, and come down to Star Alignment. Now in Star Alignment, we need to choose a reference image. This is going to be an image that we have good signal with the stars. And for this, I'm going to use luminance. If we go to the right side of reference image, we see a little drop down, and we can choose either File or View. All of the files or all of the channels that we're going to be working with are currently on the workspace. So I'm going to choose View. Next to View, if we click this little icon, that gives us the ability to choose luminance. We're going to click OK, and then we see that luminance has been added to the reference image. For target images, the same concept applies. We see Add Files and Add Views. Since all of the channels that we're working with are currently on the workspace, we're going to choose Add Views. Here, we're going to choose everything else. We're going to choose hydrogen alpha, red, green, and blue. We're not going to choose luminance though, because luminance is currently being used as reference image. We're going to click OK, and then the blue circle. This is then going to apply star alignment and align all of our channels to the luminance channel. We're going to exit out of star alignment. Let's exit out of the console, and let's do a quick stretch. Now we can see that star alignment work because we see these big black corners or big black edges. And what this is the rotation of each image to get it to align to the luminance channel perfectly. In other words, let's go ahead and take two of our channels here and let's overlap them. We can now see that they all line up perfectly with each other. And that's exactly what we want. If we were to combine them before doing star alignment, we'd be left with a mess, and that's not what we want. So now, let's go ahead and minimize these, and let's place them off to the side. From here, we're going to be using the star aligned images. The only one that does not have a registered tag, in other words, went through star alignment, is going to be luminance. Luminance was used as the reference. So from our old channel list off to the left, we're going to pull luminance because we're still going to be using luminance. The rest of them we can go ahead and delete. Now, one habit I like to be in is making sure that all of my channels are named so I can easily identify them. So let's go ahead and let's rename these. Here's our green channel. Here's our red channel. Here's our blue channel. And then finally, hydrogen alpha. Now, again, I like to look at this as HA, luminance, red, green, and blue. We'll highlight all of them, right-click, arrange selected icons, align left, and we're back to a nice organized stack. The next thing that we want to do is crop out any stacking artifacts. Stacking artifacts can affect the effectiveness of background extraction, especially in an image where you've done star alignment and we have these black edges that will affect background extraction. Now for this particular image, M51 kind of gets lost in the field of view. I want to bring M51 as the centerpiece of the final image. So I want to make sure to crop this in a way that honors that. As far as this little crescent over here, we're going to get into that in another video. But that's another reason why I want to tighten up the crop on this. So what we're going to do is go into Process, All Processes, and we're going to come down to Dynamic Crop. I'm going to go ahead and draw a cropping box. And then we can fine-tune the crop exactly the way that we want it. Now, if you take a look at my cursor, as I move it over the edge of the cropping box, notice how the cursor changes. We get that little piece on the right side. Once that piece appears, we can click and hold and we can drag the cropping box anywhere that we want it. Now, another piece that I want to show you, take a look around my cursor here. Watch that little area, how it moves back and forth. This little piece marks the center of our cropping box. I'm going to make sure that that little piece stays in the core of M51. That ensures that M51 is at the center of the frame. From there, I'm just going to use that to crop this the way I want it. So I'm going to take some width away. And then I'm going to go to the right side and I'm going to make sure that that little piece is lined up with the core. Next, I might add just a little bit of height. Notice how that piece was a little bit high, so if I drag the bottom down, right, that moves that centering piece down. Right now it's centered, meaning that M51 is now at the center of the frame. For the sake of the video, I'm going to go ahead and use this crop right here. Now, before we apply it, it is absolutely important that every single channel has an identical crop. If we don't, we will have issues later on. So before we go ahead and grab the triangle and drop it, what we're going to do is open up our other channels. Now, for each channel, triangle, drag and drop. We'll see that the crop is applied to the other channel. We'll go ahead and do that for each of the other channels. And now that we're left with the original channel, we'll go ahead and click the green check mark. Now every single channel is cropped identical to each other. Let's go ahead and exit out of Dynamic Crop. And what's left now is Background Extraction. For Background Extraction, we're going to go into Script, SETI Astro, Automatic DBE. Now, generally, with Automatic DBE, I'll just run the default settings. But for this video, I want to show you something. If we look here, we have User-Defined Exclusion Area. If we click on that little checkbox, we see our image. If we click and hold Shift, and then we drag, we can actually draw a box around our galaxy. What this does is it tells Automatic DBE, do not place any points within this box. When we're running background extraction, we don't want to include any structure, such as this dust around the galaxy itself. We don't even want to include points around this bright star. So I'm going to make sure to draw a box around the bright star as well. From here, we're going to click Execute. Automatic DBE is going to give us our background model, which looks good. Let's do a quick auto stretch, and we're looking good. Let's minimize green, put it off to the side, and we no longer need the original green. We're going to do the same thing for each channel. So for blue, we're going to go to Script, SETI Astro, Automatic DBE, click User Defined Exclusion Area, click and hold Shift, draw a box around the galaxy, draw a box around the bright star, execute. We'll go ahead and we'll check our background model, which looks good. We'll do a quick auto stretch, looking good. Move blue off to the side, exit out of the original. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that for the rest of the channels. And then I'll bring you back as soon as I'm done. So now all of our channels have had the background extracted. So let's go ahead and get out of the original hydrogen alpha. We have the background extracted hydrogen alpha, background extracted luminance, green, blue, and red. So let's go ahead and reorganize our icons. So we have HA, luminance, red, green, and blue. We'll highlight all of them, right click, arrange selected icons, align left. And now we're ready for the next step. From here, I'm going to go ahead and combine red, green, and blue into an RGB image. To do that, I'm going to go into Process, All Processes, and come down to Channel Combination. Here, we want to make sure that color space is set to RGB, and then we're going to select the appropriate channel for the appropriate dropdown. All that we really need to do is grab our channels and drag them over. So blue goes to blue, green goes to green, and red goes to red. Click the blue circle. Let's exit out of channel combination, and then let's do a quick auto stretch. So now here it looks really scary, but trust the process. Right now, our auto stretch is set to a linked stretch. Let's go into Process, All Processes, and come down to Screen Transfer Function. Here in the upper left, we see the little link and how it's selected. Let's unselect it and do an unlinked stretch. Let's hit the little radiation icon, and we're starting to look a little bit better. It's still nowhere near where it should be, but here's where the rest of the processing comes in. The first thing that I want to do is neutralize the background. There's a lot of color and things like that in the background. I want to go ahead and neutralize that. So over at the top of PixInsight under Workspace over by my cursor, there's a little page looking icon. If we click on that, let's go to an area of the background that's just pure background. We do want to avoid stars, or at least as much as we can. We can go ahead and just move that. And here we go. The background preview is just showing pure background. If we click on the little tab on the left of the window, we can actually see what the background sees. And we can see all of that color in there. Let's go into Process, All Processes, and come down to Background Neutralization. Here we want a region of interest, and that's where our preview comes in. If we take on the left side of the image window, our little preview tab, and drag it over, we just added our background preview to the region of interest. Back over to the left side of the window, we click on the upper tab, which is our main image. What we're going to do is in background neutralization, triangle, drag and drop. That now neutralizes our background. On screen transfer function, we still want to be unlinked. Let's click the radiation icon. And it doesn't look that much different, but if we go back over to the left side of our image window and click on the background preview tab, here's what it did. So I'm going to leave the background preview alone for now. We're going to need it in the next step, or I should say 2 steps from now. Let's exit out of background neutralization. What we want to do now is color calibrate the image. To do that, we're going to be using SPCC, or spectrophotometric color calibration. To use spectrophotometric color calibration, we do need an astrometric solution. That tells SPCC, or spectrophotometric color calibration, exactly where in the sky this image was taken. And then SPCC grabs the spectral data from the Gaia Observatory information and puts it into the image, color calibrating it and bringing all of the colors where they should be. For the astrometric solution, we're going to go into Script, Astrometry, and Image Solver. Here, we want to make sure that we have active windows selected, and then we want to make sure everything in here is correct. Right ascension coordinates, declination coordinates, the date and time, your latitude, longitude. You want to also, I'd like to use anyway, focal distance, and then we need to make sure our pixel size is correct. Once everything is set and you can confirm that everything is correct, simply click OK. And then Image Solver is going to go ahead and apply the astrometric solution to the image. Let's go ahead and exit out of the console. And then we're going to go into Process, All Processes, and come down to Spectrophotometric Color Calibration. Now, if you need help with SPCC, I do have a few videos going over it. I'll have them linked in the description of this video here, so make sure to check them out. And as always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. For QE Curve, I'm going to check my sensor, and then for the filters, I'm going to choose the filters that I used. In this case, the Optolong red, green, and blue filters. You may not see your particular filters in the list. I do have a video going over adding filters as well as a database of filters. I'll have that in the description as well. And then for region of interest, we're going to grab our background preview tab and throw it in. Now, yes, SPCC does its own background neutralization. Yes, we already did background neutralization. The reason why I'm setting it up here is I like to be consistent from video to video, or at least as consistent as I can be, so I'm not setting it up one way in one video, then another way in another video. It's not going to hurt anything to run it again, so I'm just going to set it up so I'm keeping on a consistent path of setting up SPCC, just in case anyone was wondering. Once everything in SPCC is set up, triangle, drag and drop. This is now going to use the astrometric solution and color calibrate our image the way it should be. Everything over here is looking good, so we're going to exit out of SPCC, the console, go to Preview, delete all, and you're probably thinking, Tony, that looks worse. Don't worry, here's where trusting the process comes in. In screen transfer function, we're still on an unlinked stretch. Let's go ahead and link the stretch now so we get an actual auto stretch, or basically previewing the image the way that it should be. So here we are, we're linked again, and we're going to click the radiation button, and there you go. Now our colors are where they should be. So from here, there's a lot of green. Now, yes, SPCC does very specific calculations, very specific adjustments. So sometimes this can be frowned upon. Personally, I don't really like SCNR, but we're going to use SCNR here because this is a lot of green. So in process, all processes, we're going to come down to SCNR. And I don't want to use 100%. I want to use probably something like 60%. So under amount, 0.6, triangle, drag and drop. That gets rid of some of that green. We still have a little bit left, but it's not as overpowering as it was. Let's exit out of SCNR. And now what we want to do here is let's do some sharpening. Now for sharpening, I like to do Blur Exterminator. Blur Exterminator is going to tighten up our stars, and it's also going to sharpen our galaxy. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the galaxy just a little bit. Let's go over to Screen Transfer Function, and if you look over at my cursor, I'm over on that red slider. I'm just going to click somewhere out here and slowly drag it left. This is giving us just a little bit more of how this is going to end up looking. Now what we're going to do from here is I'm going to use my script Star Console. I'm going to show it to you one way just so you can see what's going on. So if we go into Script, HLP, Star Console. Star Console is pretty much anything stars. We can run the full Blur Exterminator, which is going to tighten up the stars, and it's also going to sharpen our galaxy. And we can also remove the stars. Before I go ahead and remove the stars, I want to show you what's going on, and then we'll go ahead and use Star Console the way that we should. So to start out with, our current image is image 45. So we're going to grab that. We're going to click Full Star Correction. And for this data set, 0.6 does very well on stellar sharpening. And then 0.9 does really well on the non-stellar sharpening. So play around with these sliders. See what works best on your data set. No two data sets are the same, so you may need some different settings to what I use. I already know that on this particular data set, these values do very well. I'm not going to do any star removal yet, because I just want to show you what this does. We're going to click Measure Full Width Half Max. This is going to go ahead, measure the full width half max of the stars, apply the settings to Blur Exterminator, run the full Blur Exterminator, and leave us with a nice image. So let's go ahead and exit out of Star Console. And here you go. Let's go ahead and back up. Here's before, here's after. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Before and after. Before and after. If I were to remove the stars, it would be hard to show you exactly what it's doing for the stars. But here we can see exactly what it's doing. So let's go ahead and let's minimize our RGB image for the time being. Let's move it off to the side. Let's bring out one of these. Since we have our RGB image, we no longer need green or blue. I'm just going to exit out. We don't need them anymore. But we are going to hold on to red. Red is going to be important when we do the continuum subtraction on hydrogen alpha. So we're going to hang on to this. We do want to sharpen the other three channels though. Red, hydrogen alpha, and luminance. So let's go ahead, let's grab Script, HLP, Star Console. And let's go ahead and click Full Star Correction. Let's run the same settings. We got 0.6 on stellar sharpening. We've got 0.9 on non-stellar sharpening. And then we're going to click Star Removal. And I'm going to use Stars Only Image. If you've been following the channel, I've been using unscreened stars on the linear data. If I'm putting them back in the non-linear stage, I've actually found some weird results that sometimes appear, sometimes they don't. But doing the stars only image on the linear data has been giving me much better results. I'll get into that in another video. So Since the data is linear, we're going to be using stars only image, and I want to enable large overlap. So just to recap, full star correction, we have our stellar and non-stellar sharpening parameters set. We're doing star removal using Star Exterminator's stars only image and enabling large overlap. If you happen to be using StarNet, I have the options for that as well. Since we're going to be applying the same settings to the other channels, instead of setting this up every time, we're going to grab the new instance icon, drag it onto the workspace, exit out of Star Console, grab the icon we just dropped on the workspace, and drop it on the image. This is going to go ahead and apply the settings that we had. It's also going to go ahead and apply or save the settings so we can reuse them for each of the other images. So now we have our red data. Let's hop in here and we can see that Blur Exterminator sharpened the red data. Here's before and here's after. Before and after. We can see that nice sharpening going on. So now we have our red data, which is starless. So that's where we want to be. Let's minimize it. We're not going to use any of the stars from red, luminance, or hydrogen alpha. So once those stars come out, we can just exit out of them. We don't need them. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for luminance and hydrogen alpha, and I'll bring you back once it's done. So here we are. We have our starless and sharpened hydrogen alpha data, starless and sharpened luminance data, starless and sharpened red data. We don't need our Star Console stuff anymore, so let's just exit out. We're not going to really need screen transfer function anymore, so we can exit out of that. And let's go ahead and let's pull the stars from our RGB image. I'm just going to run Star Exterminator directly here. Again, stars only image, large overlap, triangle, drag and drop. And that'll pull the stars from our RGB image, and then we can go ahead and continue on. So once the stars are out, we're just going to go ahead and stretch them. It's quick and easy. That finalizes the stars and gets them ready for reinsertion later on. Let's exit out of Star Exterminator. Let's go into Script, SETI Astro, Star Stretch. Here we can show a preview. We can see what the script is going to do. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. You can adjust your stretch amount however you see fit. I think a stretch amount of 5 does an absolute amazing job. So I'm just going to execute it as is. Our stars are stretched. They are ready to go. These are final. So we're going to throw that off to the side. Let's go ahead and focus on RGB. What we want to do here is we want to put a final stretch on RGB. For that, we're going to go into Script, SETI Astro, Statistical Stretch. And in the script, it does state that if you have basically a prominent structure, a galaxy, something like that, something that's not overtaking the image, start with 0.1 for target median. So we're going to start with 0.1. Let's preview, and we'll see what this is going to do. It looks good, but there's one thing that I want to point out here. Take a look at the dust up above M51, that dust. I'm going to go to a target median of 0.15. Now the background looks a little bit washed out, but that dust is a little bit more prominent. That's what I want. That's what I want to start with. We'll dial it in from there. So let's go ahead and execute. Let's exit out of Statistical Stretch, and let's go ahead and finalize this really quick. Let's zoom in. We have some noise. We want to get rid of that noise, or get rid of kind of a bad phrase. A little bit of noise is a good thing. So let's reduce the noise. Let's go into Process, All Processes. Let's come down to Noise Exterminator. And I'm going to start with 0.7, triangle, drag and drop. And then this is going to reduce the noise within the image. Now, Noise Exterminator version 3 does an absolute amazing job. Look at that. It does spectacular. We still have a little bit of noise left in the image. That's where we want to be. So let's go ahead and exit out of Noise Exterminator. And we want to set this image and finalize it so that it's ready for the next step. Let's go into Process, All Processes. Let's come down to Curves Transformation. And let's open up a preview. So now what we want to do, I'm going to show you a quick little trick for Curves Transformation. If we click and hold, we have an area of interest, right? Let's take this dust. Look at the graph on Curves Transformation. You see that vertical line. That vertical line is showing you where on this line that those values exist. So that vertical line ended up right around here. Let's grab it and let's drag it down. The way I usually explain it is the bottom left is going to be background, the top right is going to be your structure. For the most part, that's true. But if we grab in the area that we're interested in, drag it down, because that's darkening up the background, you don't want to go too much. A little bit at a time goes a long way. Now let's come down to the bottom left. Right over where my cursor is bottom left, and let's click. That's going to set a point which is going to lock your background. We go back to the original point that we set, and now we drag it up. And just a little bit. Notice how this curve is just ever so slight. Click on the preview button again, and you have before and after. Before and after. Let's accept it. Let's reset. And let's go back. I'm just clicking kind of in the dust area. And I'm seeing where it lands. I'm going to drag it down just a little bit. Click to lock the background. Grab the original point. Drag it up. And notice how we're bringing some of that dust back out, right? Before and after. Before and after. We're bringing in some, we're just making this a little bit brighter, a little bit more visible, more prominent. Let's darken that background just a little bit more. Let's click. I think that looks pretty good. See if we can get that background just a little bit darker. We don't want to go too dark because we're going to make more adjustments later on. So I think that this, might be just a little bit too bright. So I'm going to bring that up just a little bit. Here's before, after, before, after. Let's just accept that for the sake of the video. Now we can go ahead and adjust some saturation. Let's go ahead and grab our chrominance. If we click and hold Control and then we drag, we can zoom in. Now on chrominance, one thing I want to point out, sometimes this happens. Notice how I can't click and grab anything. For some reason, every once in a while, this gets selected over by my cursor, this one all the way to the left. Click that, and now we can go ahead and grab again. That's actually a good opportunity to show you that. So here we have before, after, before, after. Sometimes nice, easy adjustments go a long way. So that might be a little bit too much. I'm going to drop that down just a little bit. And I'm going to show you why. So let's drop this down just a little bit more. Whoops. Bring it just a little bit. I'm going to also adjust saturation to try to bring some more of this blue and everything out. And what this chrominance does, take a look up over here near the top, it really brings out the reds and browns, right? So if I go too much on chrominance when I do our saturation, it's going to really boost that, and it's just going to be a little bit out of proportion. So I'm going to leave that right where it's at, and then we're going to come back in here, go into saturation, and then we're going to boost some saturation. So we're going to bring that, let's reset. We can actually go a little bit strong on the saturation, and the reason is when we add the luminance, it's going to kind of wash a little bit of it out. This might be a little bit too much, so I'm going to drag that down just a little bit. I like that, so we're going to leave that be, and we're going to close out. Now, you're probably thinking this background is looking a little bit rough. Don't worry, we're going to take care of that. Trust the process. Now, anytime we stretch or do anything, it does add some noise. So here we have some noise that we added. I'm going to go ahead and run Noise Exterminator again, only this time I'm not going to be so aggressive with it. Drop it down to maybe 40%. Drop the triangle on and try to reduce some of that noise. And then what we're going to do from here, once the noise is reduced, is we're going to work on luminance. So let's go ahead and put M51 off to the side, close out of Noise Exterminator and Curves Transformation. Let's grab luminance. Now, what we're going to do here, since this is already sharpened, is we're going to stretch it. Script, SETI Astro, Statistical Stretch. Here, we're actually going to do 0.1. Let's preview the stretch. We can see that our dust is nice and prominent. Our background is nice and dark where we want it to be. Let's execute as is. Exit out of statistical stretch. And let's go ahead and reduce our noise. So let's bring out Noise Exterminator again. Let's bump this back up to 0.7. And we may get a little bit of a warning in the console here. Just like that right there. All that's stating, this isn't a color image, so some of the features in Noise Exterminator are not going to take effect. That's totally fine. So now our noise is reduced. Let's bring out Curves Transformation, Process All Processes, Curves Transformation. Let's go back to RGB/K. Let's open up a preview, and we're going to do the same thing. Let's grab our starting point, drag it down, lock our background, and come up. Now, it's okay to really kind of bring this out. We want to bring out luminance. Accept, and then let's go ahead again. Let's grab some of this out here. Let's drag that down. Let's lock the background. I'm probably going to start that over. And it's okay to start over if you're not comfortable with the adjustment that you made. Let's go ahead and bring that out. This is starting to look pretty good here. You don't want to completely blow it out, but you definitely want to bring out some of these features in luminance. That's the whole purpose of luminance. So let's do maybe one more here. Drag it down, lock our background, and bring it out. So I think that's looking pretty good. I might go just a tad bit less. Here's before, after. I think that looks good. You know what? I'm probably going to leave it. The reason why I'm leaving it, this faint dust over at my cursor, at the bottom and the top, was starting to fade away. I want to bring some of that out in the final image. So I'm going to leave this the way that it is. Let's check on our noise. We're looking pretty good, so we're just going to leave that. Let's exit out of Curves Transformation. And now let's add some detail into this. There's a couple of ways that we can do it. Under Script HLP, I have Astro Image Detail. We are going to use that in this workflow, but I do want to try to bring out some of the contrast, some of the smaller areas in here. So let's go into Process, All Processes, and let's come down to Local Histogram Equalization. Let's open a preview. And here, this looks a little bit rough. So this is one of those trust the process areas. Kernel radius, the further right, the larger the structure. You bring it left, and it just changes what it actually affects, right? So I'm gonna bring this maybe just a little bit to the left here. Here's before, here's after. I think what I might do is go more left. Okay, I like the structures that's now affecting here. Amount. This is a pretty strong application. If we drag the slider, the amount slider to the left, we can see that it now drastically reduces what or how much it affects. Subtle's good, right? You don't want to go too heavy on this, but subtle changes definitely make a difference. I kind of like the way that's looking, so I'm going to accept that. Exit out of the preview, exit out of local histogram equalization. I always like to double check, make sure I'm not adding a whole lot of noise here. From here, if we go into Script, HLP, Astro Image Detail, I like to really see what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and for zoom, go 1:1, show preview. Now, the default settings are going to be way too strong since we already used local histogram equalization. So we do need to reduce this a bit. As we can see, that's quite a bit. I'm going to get rid of small scale, and I'm going to drop large scale down to, let's go ahead and zero it out so you can see it before. Here's before. And let's bring large scale up to right around 2.5. And we can see what that does. I might even opt to bring that down to 2. And we're going to go ahead and accept this the way that it is. So we're going to execute. And now our luminance is all set. Let's go run a very light process or very light touch of Noise Exterminator. Let's do 0.3. Again, anytime you sharpen or stretch, it does affect the noise. So, it is okay to run Noise Exterminator a couple of times if you need to. You don't want to run it too strong though, but we have a nice clean luminance image now. So let's go ahead, let's grab our RGB image. Let's minimize our luminance image. And we're going to combine luminance to RGB. Let's go into Process, All Processes, come down to LRGB Combination. We don't need R, G, or B because we're only applying luminance. So we're going to take our luminance image, drag it into the luminance section, triangle, drag and drop. And there is our luminance added into our RGB. Here's before, here's after. Before and after. So now what we're going to end up doing is we're going to do the continuum subtraction on hydrogen alpha, and then we're going to go ahead and adjust hydrogen alpha and then put it into RGB. Let's minimize RGB. Let's go ahead and hop out of LRGB combination. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into Script, Toolbox, Continuum Subtraction. Now here we have RGB view. This is where our red channel from earlier comes in. So we're going to grab red, and we see it right here. And then narrowband view or HA, that's going to be our HA. And here we have our continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha. Now for amount, you can change amount. You can do all kinds of different things with this. Make it however much you want to make it. I think personally the default settings give a nice result. So I'm going to put this back to 1. Let that be just the way that it is. Hit the green check mark. And here we have our continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha data. Now what we need to do is stretch it. So back into script, SETI Astro, statistical stretch. We're going to do a target median of 0.1, and we can look at how that looks right over here. Execute. We'll exit out of statistical stretch, and let's go into process all processes, noise exterminator. I'm going to bring this back to 0.7, and even though I'm using 0.7, I know that 0.7 does well on this data set. Always make sure to experiment, see how much actually works on yours. You want just a little bit of noise left. You're not looking to completely take it away. So, if you're not happy with how it turned out, simply click the back button, put in the new value, rerun it, and see what it does. So now that we're stretched, we're going to go ahead and adjust our continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha data. Process all processes, curves transformation. Make sure our RGB/K is selected. We're going to click the circle for the preview. And here it doesn't really matter. What we're looking for are the bright areas. So if we take a look at the galaxy here, these little, looks like really bright stars, right? That's our hydrogen alpha. That's really what we're looking to do. So let's grab just kind of the average of where we've been, drag it down. Let's lock the background, bring it up just a little bit. Let's accept. It's okay to really make the background dark on this one. We really want our hydrogen data to stand out. Let's redo this one. Always want to go just a little bit at a time here. Let's accept. Drag it down just a little bit more. And I think that looks pretty decent here. We have our hydrogen alpha data. We didn't add too much noise. Let's exit out of curves transformation. And what we're going to do, let's minimize hydrogen alpha, or our continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha. And how we're going to combine our RGB with our hydrogen alpha is using a script. Let's go into script, toolbox. We're going to go to combine RGB and narrowband. Before we do that, sometimes the hydrogen alpha data can be very strong when it goes into your galaxy. That's not the problem. What you want to make sure of, are you happy with the saturation of your galaxy prior to adding hydrogen alpha? The reason is we went a little bit heavy on saturation before we applied luminance, and luminance kind of washed it down a little bit. That's why we were able to go a little bit strong. Since it got washed down, if we go back into curves transformation, open up a preview, we select saturation. We want to make sure that however we want this to look, right? Whatever saturation level that we're looking for is satisfied now, because once we apply hydrogen alpha, we may not be able to adjust it afterward. So let's go ahead, let's just make this small little saturation adjustment and let's call it good. Let's exit out of curves transformation. And then what we're going to do from here Since now we're happy with our saturation, we're going to go into Script, Toolbox, Combine RGB and Narrowband. RGB image, we're going to select our RGB image, in this case image 45 underscore star console. Let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. Let's bring our galaxy front and center. And now for narrowband red, we're going to select our continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha data. It is marked with an HA underscore final. Once we click that, there's our hydrogen alpha added into our galaxy. Let's click the green check mark. And as I mentioned, it can go in a little bit strong. Now, the last part, let's fix this background. To do this, we are going to use a mask, and the mask is going to allow us to fix the background without touching the galaxy. So let's go into Process, All Processes, and let's grab Range Selection. Let's open up a preview. And for lower limit, we're going to drag that to the right. And all that we're looking for is to cover the galaxy. Notice how we have our dust off over by my cursor. We want to make sure that we can cover that. If we go too much, we may miss some of it. So this right here is going to cover some of that dust that I was talking about earlier. It's going to cover that little swoosh of dust up at the top. So I like this right here. Fuzziness, I'm just going to ever so slightly. Smoothness, crank it. Let's go ahead and apply. We can exit out of the preview, exit out of range selection. Keep your mask open. The little tab on the left side of the mask, grab it and bring it just below the tab on your RGB image window. When we drop it in there, we notice the screen turns red. Do not close out of your mask, you will lose it. All we're going to do is minimize, bring it off to the side. Red protects. So we want to do the background. We want to modify the background. Right now, the mask is protecting the background. Control-Shift-I puts the mask over the galaxy. Now we can affect the background. Control-K hides the mask. Now the way that you tell that your mask is still applied, the tab on the left side of the main imaging window, notice how it's brown. That is now applied. On the flip side, your tab would normally be gray. If it's gray, the mask is not applied. So our main imaging window that we're adjusting, the tab is brown, so our mask is good to go. Let's go into Process, All Processes, come down to Curves Transformation, open a preview. Let's go to Saturation, and let's drag it down. Notice how that color went away. And our galaxy is left virtually untouched. Let's go into Chrominance, drag it down. Before, after. Before, after. We can even go into RGB/K and drag it down just a little bit. You don't want to go too much, but having it just a little bit, it really makes a little bit of a difference. So let's go ahead and apply, exit out of the preview, exit out of Curves Transformation. We have a nice background. Our galaxy's good to go. Our noise is in check for the most part. We have even good detail in the dust. So I think this is looking pretty good. Let's exit out of our mask. We see that our tab is now gray. Let's go into Script, HLP, Stars Back. Now we used a stars only image. We did not unscreen the stars, so we're going to click stars only image, DSO image, image 45 underscore star console, which is right here. Stars image, image 45 underscore star console underscore stars. Hit execute. And we have our final image. So I hope you found this video useful, and if you did and want to help support the channel, check out that join button and consider joining a Hidden Light Photography membership. There's lots of perks in it for you, and your support helps me bring you more content. Another way you can help support the channel is checking out my High Point Scientific affiliate link if you're in the market for some new gear. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and the support helps me keep the channel growing. Also, do me a favor. That channel icon that popped up, hit that channel icon and subscribe. I don't want you to miss out on any future content. Drop a comment in the comments section. Have you captured an HA-LRGB image yet? Did this video help understand HA-LRGB processing? And then, check out that next video. Until the next time, clear skies.